Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Adam Mueller with the State Your Business podcast. And today I have Erik Hasselquist, who is a land developer and a builder.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Adam.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So I met Erik on Crown Rally. So another Crown Rally person.
Yeah. Yep.
Crown family.
Oh, God, yeah. Fun stories from that.
2024.
Yep.
I think it was August.
Was that your first rally? Or you've done a couple, haven't you?
I've done a couple. I just took a break in between.
Yeah.
Hadn't been to one in probably 3-4 years.
Okay.
Something like that.
So I probably met you on your first one because I've done them since 2015.
Really?
Yeah.
So I would have met. I would
It
have
was
probably
the second
been,
rally ever that they did, so I was part of that one. And then I've done them ever since.
Are you a north, south, east, west guy?
I've done them all, yeah.
You've done them all?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to do all three, and then I had kids, and then it was like, maybe I'll do one a year.
That's what happened to me.
We're in the same boat.
The kids started popping
the wives
out.
call and they say, no, you need to be home.
Yep. So yeah, that and running a business and employees and you know how all that goes. But
Absolutely.
so yeah, I guess Erik, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your background, what it was like growing up, becoming Erik, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Rochester, Minnesota. Grew up down there. Kind of had two sides of my family doing two different types of business. So I grew up in the space of business and got to be pretty hands-on with that growing up. So down in Rochester, raced motocross when I was growing up. Thought I was going to do that for a career. I realized that was not my path.
What class?
I was actually in A class.
Okay.
Yep. And then I did pro, but it was like I got my pro license and then ended up having a couple bad crashes and had a couple buddies with some traumatic brain injuries and realized, maybe Mom had the come to Jesus conversation with you and say, why don't you go to college? And
a little less risky.
Yeah, yep. So I went to school at Gustavus. I went for international business management and a minor in finance. I did that. And then kind of growing up, I grew up with my grandfather who did commercial land development. So he bought up a farm down in Rochester. It's 120 acres. And he basically took raw dirt and turned it into finished neighborhoods and commercial land and buildings. And then
you grew up seeing this as a kid.
Yeah,
I grew up. What kid doesn't love digging dirt?
Yeah,
And
I mean, I gotta run the equipment. I gotta do the grunt work. I got just thrown into the mix. And my grandfather and was always really great about, hey, I need your help. Kind of like, probably didn't need my help at all, but it was good motivation for me growing up because I was pretty ADD and needed some purpose. And so he was pretty good to motivate me, and my purpose was, hey, he always needed help, and I was always wanting to help. And so I got, starting out, it was, hey, here's a skid loader, here's a pile of dirt, move the dirt over here, dig a hole. And then it was, okay, now dig a trench with the backhoe. And then it was, okay, we're building these townhomes, you need to go learn how to do the brickwork, the framing, the electrical, whatever it was, just throw you in and taught me how to do it. And so learned everything from start to finish on that. And then basically got done with college. So I did that all through, probably since I was 8 till I went to college. And then the other side of my family, my uncle owned a number of the dealerships up here in the Twin Cities with the Polad family and Penske's and stuff like that. So during the summers off from college, I would go and intern with him and do car sales and go through all the marketing, and they would buy distressed dealerships and flip them. And so I'd get to go in and see how do you change a culture? How do you do all that stuff and learn the nitty gritty of here's how you turn stuff around. Here's how you find a business that's distressed. And then realized how that was all going, and realized, I didn't want to sell cars for the rest of my life, and didn't want to be there every Sunday because I had seen a number of people in the car business that had multiple divorces and things like that. And it was something that I was like, I think I'm just going to back out of this. And then
real quick,
yeah,
you mentioned something about recognizing or identifying distressed businesses.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So that's a good one. So every industry is a little bit different. But it's also, it comes down to looking at the books and cash flow and figuring out, how do you move the needle? Is it someone's not doing the right marketing? Are they, what is your overhead cost? And then what is the sales that you're bringing in? And you obviously want those sales to be a lot more than your overhead cost and to get your profit. So there's a lot of people that, hey, you can come in, you see that they're not the big volume dealers. So a good one was you'd look at these small dealerships around the Twin Cities and they didn't have big inventories. And so the dealership game would be, hey, you do it at volume. So you have a lot of units that you're turning over for it. And so you have, units might sit on a dealership for 90 days, and once it's on 90 days, you have a floor plan, and you want it off your books at that point. So they'll wholesale it, or they'll get, they want to sell these cars. So you'd have a lot of these small dealerships that wouldn't get the selection to sell, the premium trucks for Chevy or Dodge or Ram. And so you'd need the bigger inventory to then get the higher sales, because then you'd have the inventory to sell to people. And a lot of these smaller dealerships also sucked at marketing. So you're also like understanding, how do you market, how do you sell cars, what are effective leads, where are they coming from? Is it Auto Trader, is it Car Gurus, is it Carvana, or not Carvana, but one of those marketing companies that sell stuff. So it was like going through that. So I would go through, worked with like BMW Minnetonka when they first opened, and I went through all their marketing and figured out what was effective for the new car sales, what was effective for the used car sales, where was it coming from, how do you tweak those numbers to get better clicks on it, and then so you can see how that trickles through to then ultimately your revenue. So I think any business, at the end of the day, distressed business, you understand that, okay, you could be doing better, or there's, you approach someone that's got a dealership and they're not doing so well, they're having some money issues, they're not even to pay payroll or something like that. And those are the opportunities that some of these larger companies were able to step in, or larger groups were able to step in and say, hey, let me take this off of you, I'll give you some money, and then I'll turn it around. And then it was going in, changing the culture, changing the processes.
So that's a whole different basket.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you come in and change a work culture?
So
what's an example of what you would do?
Yeah. So first, you got to seek to understand what's going on. That's the one thing I've learned from my uncle, who was a big mentor of mine, is you got to seek to understand. So figure out what's going on, and then what is your end goal, and then figure out. There's a lot of people that are just bad culture fit, where they complain constantly instead of coming up with a solution. So when you kind of look at your staff, is you want collaboration and openness, but you don't want someone that's just complaining all the time. And usually the people that are just complaining and they don't have a solution or ideas for a solution, they're usually not a fit. Where if you have a client or a employee that's saying, hey, I've got the service drive, I've got customers coming in, they're waiting in the service drive a long time, and it's taken a long time for us to get to them as an advisor to greet them, and they just complain about it, but they don't come up with an idea of like, how could we fix this bottleneck? Is it a scheduling issue? Is it hey, we need more help with employees, or someone as a greeter? So like BMW Minnetonka, you have these service drives that are big service drives, and you say, hey, I know the advisors can't get to them immediately, and how do we get them a good experience and then get them to the advisor with that transition? So a lot of that was like, you have a greeter, you have someone that comes and greets them, gets the information, gets it ready for the service advisor, and then moves them on. So it was, when you see those people that are willing to collaborate and come up with those ideas in those areas, it's like, those are people that you want to keep. The other people, they're gonna kind of work their way out. They're always gonna complain, and just kind of encourage them. Hey, we'd love to find another opportunity for you elsewhere. Is there something else you'd like to be doing? Is there somewhere else that we could refer you over to? And just kind of help them find their next move.
Relocate,
a polite way. And sometimes you got to go in with the axe and just say you're fired and get rid of them. Because there are those people that are detrimental to the company that only create, it's like, rotted fruit next to good fruit. It affects the other fruit at some point. So you got to get rid of them.
What do you do in a situation where, let's say it's a smaller company though, and that person's essential to the cash flow of the business?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's, I think, every small business owner.
Yep. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that one is, you gotta find a replacement at some point. No matter what, if they are a bad apple, you can kind of drag it along, but you gotta find someone eventually that will replace them, or say, hey, I need someone that helps replace you. And you'll get the person that's like, hey, they don't know what they're doing, and they're unwilling to train them. But I think at the end of the day, if you're growing a business, your job is to train and find competent people that can train others and repeat the results that you're doing. So that's, if you can find someone or look for someone, you got to go find your people. It's not do it yourself, but find your people, and they will help grow your business at the end of the day. So I don't know if that's a
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sounds like people development.
people development. That is the name of the game for any business.
Develop the people build the business.
Yep, exactly. And that allows you to keep stepping out and getting back and back to, you know, building the higher value items. Because if I'm stuck in a $30 per hour job, my value is $30 per hour. You know, if I can't get back to helping someone else do the same thing I was doing and grow that value and doing a higher value item, then I'm only as good as that job I'm doing.
So were you working for your uncle to go in and identify these problems and then bring solutions to the table?
I gotta do a lot of that. I gotta sit with them and, you know, sit on the boards. And, you know, I think it was like my 21st birthday, I went into a board meeting and I was presenting to the Polad family of the marketing finds. And you're like, all right, it was, you know, day after my 21st birthday. I was like, yeah, but we're not drinking that day. But yeah, I was able to present that stuff and find it. But it's also a good learning of just the standards and expectations that are set at that level on those things. And so, yeah, there was some value there, but still ultimately I was advising in some way, just like you bring an intern into a lot of businesses. They do a lot of the work that the upper management doesn't want to do, but still brings a lot of value of uncovering that information. So that was a lot of my roles in the dealership, is doing that, and then learning each of the roles. I went through, you know, service, sales, all of those things, just like I did with my grandfather doing commercial land development. Is you learn each of the roles, you know how to do it, you know how to pull the levers, you know how things are supposed to flow through the drive and how things work, and then knowing how do you tweak them to bring out better results.
So in that season of your life, what do you think the biggest takeaway was? That was applicable to
I think the biggest thing is businesses are people.
Okay.
It's about finding the right people, and that's how you build a business. You know, if you worked at another company and you're like, okay, I'm going to start this business, who would you have brought from those other companies that you think would be great roles for the roles that you need to fill in your business? And I think that's true for any business in there, is like, who are your people, and are they ready to possibly be put into those roles for your next business? Even if they're not in the same industry, is figure out someone that's done it before and had success with it, and then see if you can hire them. You can't always afford them at the moment, but the goal is to try and get them, and that's where, can you give them equity? Can you give them opportunities for that? Give them some sort of opportunity where they want you, give them incentive enough to come with you.
Did you see those opportunities where you would offer equity to the right person to play a key role in a dealership or business?
Yeah, so I think you saw that a lot of times with the dealerships. You get big families like the Penske's or Polads. What they would give is like ghost shares of a company. So they wouldn't give true ownership, but they would give you like a mimicked version of ownership. So like my uncle with a lot of these was an owner, so he had to come up with cash for these, and then they had in their contracts that they would buy them out. So like they were bought out by the bigger deal. He was bought out by them later on when they started to grow bigger, and they didn't want to have this other partner in there with him, so they could take more on more profit and stuff like that. So,
a little bit more strategic.
Yeah, so there's a lot of contracts with that stuff. Is you when you get to the big boy game, is they give you ownership, but they can buy you out basically at any point and fire you. So, but I think in the beginning too, you can't do it yourself. Don't try to. There's you know, maybe Dave Ramsey doesn't want anyone to have ownership. He says he does, but so there's pros and cons to it. Because if you have ownership, some of it is too, you can't move as quick, or you're having to make decisions. But also sometimes you can move faster with ownership and giving them equity in the right way. So is it true ownership that they want, or is it the ability to grow and go into this management role? So it's finding out those people. Do they want ownership, and understand that they're also going to take on the capital risk of, hey, I got to come up with money. We need more money for the business.
Capital call.
We need money. It's going to come on your credit. How are you going to do that? So I think when you find someone that has that same appetite for risk, they understand that, hey, there's capital calls. We need to invest in the business. We're also the last to get paid. How's that work? Sometimes they don't want that. They want another role. So it's just, you know, working with them on that and figuring out what aligns with both your goals to get a business moving and growing, and get the sales and figure out the marketing and all that fun stuff.
So that's the dealership portion.
Yeah.
That probably brought you, to your mid-20s?
Yeah, so I was at the dealerships till I'm probably like 25, 26.
Okay.
Yep. And then I left the dealership just kind of wasn't the right fit for me. And so I got into financial advising. So I had a couple companies in between there that I worked with Northwestern Mutual, and then started working for Wells Fargo Private Wealth.
Okay.
Yep. And
that's a big swing.
Yeah, it was. Yep. And it was a great opportunity because my uncle had been working with Randy Wilcox. There's Wilcox dealership. It was Forest Lake Jeep Dodge Chrysler. So I was working up there, and he was getting ready to sell that. So they were going to kind of split off and sell that. And so he was like, "Hey, you're ready. You've developed. You know how to do a sales cycle. You know how to build a book of business. You're ready to then," because I always had wanted to be a financial advisor and understand the finance side of things, because I had seen that in different family businesses and see the planning with the finances is you need to know how to get the capital and how to create wealth strategies to build wealth. And so I was like, that's a missing piece of something I don't understand. And so I knew I wanted to do that in college because I was part of our investment group, and knew I didn't want to be an analyst because I didn't want to sit behind a screen all day. I was better with people because I had good sales skills. So I was like, oh, I'll be a financial advisor. And so he kind of gave me the blessing, like, hey, you're ready, go. And so then I had applied around and got a job at Wells Fargo Advisors Private Wealth.
Wow.
So I did that for about 7 years, and then made a transition again.
Well, so what size of books did you work with? What size of asset?
Yeah, tens of millions. So, some people are hundreds of millions, and I was still, probably, tens of millions, halfway to 100 million.
Wow.
So that was good. And
how did you find prospects?
A lot of it was just doing my hobbies. So I think that's true in a lot of business stuff, is just do your hobbies and find people with similar interest. Crown Rally was a really good one for me, actually.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many opportunities I've had from just relationships from Crown Rally, or doing things that are similar interests, like, skeet shooting or car or motocross or different things like that I love doing. Is just find people with similar interests that have, you have to have some affluence too. So Crown Rally is a great one because you need some cash to do something. Usually means that you're, either you have a business or you're working for someone that has a business and there's some sort of connection there. And then also just don't be afraid to ask people, like, hey, who should I be talking to? I'm trying to do this or that. Who should I be talking to that's really good in this area? And then just go grab a beer or whatever. Don't be afraid to ask. So I think I've always been very outgoing in that aspect of not afraid to talk to anyone, and just try and be personable. Don't try and come off where you're trying to have your own self-interest. Is just get to know someone, and there might be an opportunity that you guys can work together in the future. So, but yeah, like you said, Crown Rally's been a wonderful one. Just getting to know the people, and then having a community across the country on stuff is just amazing. Because someone knows someone that knows someone. If whoever you need to get a hold of, there's probably 4 phone calls I could make, and I'll be able to connect with that one person in just different ways. I think a cool one was actually I had a connection with someone I worked at the dealership with, and I think his great uncle was Warren Buffett. And so I just was like, I'm getting into finance, and one of the guys was like, actually, one of my family members is a Buffett. And I was like, wait, like Warren Buffett? And he's like, yeah. I was like, dude, that's like a holy grail, be able to like have a phone call, like talk to Warren Buffett. And he just like, he's like, well, I'll see you next time we go to the conference that they have in Omaha. He's like, I'll see you next time, we're hanging around. I get a phone call one day. It was literally my buddy calling, and he goes, hey, I got someone on the phone for you. And Warren Buffett, and just said, hey, I was like, oh my God, it was just like one of those like hair on the back of your neck moments. And you're like, oh my God, and he just said hi. It wasn't really much more than that, but it was like, I just talking to Warren Buffett on the phone. And I was like, that was a really cool moment of just like, hey, you have connections that someone thinks of you, and like an opportunity to do that. But
that's your moment, especially with your finance background.
Yeah, that was like, oh my God, I did it. I gotta at least talk to the person.
What should I be trading in right now?
Yeah. And I think the thing was just, keep working, work hard, self-development is basically the
and buy
gist.
BNSF.
Yeah. 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 So that was a pretty cool experience there.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
I got to walk by his house one day
Oh, nice.
in Omaha.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Lives frugal for that wealth, man.
Yeah, and I think too, you start seeing that, especially in the private wealth field, you realize, and that was part of the transition when I had a bad business fallout from someone. But you start realizing you got to start taking the advice you're giving your clients, and it was like, go start a service-based business, go do something in the trades. They're great businesses, and start building something for yourself instead of building it off of working for someone else and building their own thing. And I think, like we had said, that light bulb turning on of like, you know what, it's time I start doing it for myself and stop making someone else rich and making myself rich and helping people. So that was kind of that light bulb, and some of it was being shoved out to it, but that was the next move too, where I got back into land development and had an opportunity with my cousin. So they have a big family business, so they have Babinski properties, and so I think they have like 3,000 doors between Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Florida, between all their apartment buildings. And so he grew up also in that kind of construction development thing when they were kids. And so he's like, hey, I've got this opportunity with another business partner. Do you want to come in? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I've got, the finance background and understanding what we need to do. I've done it with my grandfather. I've seen it. I haven't been the one that's doing it, but let's go do it. I know what we need to do. And so that was an opportunity right before everything kind of blew up in the finance world. After I left Wells Fargo, did an RIA with a partner, and then it just kind of transitioned into that, and it was great, just stepping stone from there.
So how long were you in the finance world then?
7 years.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So did that for a number of years, was really good at it, and then just had some situations happen where I had a bad business partner that was lying on things and was taking money that he shouldn't have taken, and then basically tried to torch my license in retaliation for reporting him. So, yeah, that's all I need to say on that.
Sometimes
Be the bigger person. Don't screw people over. Lesson learned. Don't trust people and have everything in a contract.
And that ended up being the catalyst that shot you out into...
Yeah, so I look at it as it's a good thing. It sucks in the moment, and I think you've had experiences with some of that too, it sounded like, where there are those catalyst moments where it's like, hey, the moment hurts, but that pain creates opportunity. And it creates a lens which you can view the world in a different way. And so that's where it was like I'm about to have a child born, I've got no income, what do I do here? And it was, okay, go do it yourself. You're not going to go, you're unfit to work for anyone else, and nor would you ever go work for someone else after what happened. So go do it yourself. Go start something and go do what you were telling your clients to do, because most of my clients at the time were business owners in the trades and things like that. So I was like, go start a service-based business, go, own what you do. And so I was like, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go start, development company, which we already had done. And then also it was a complementary business to that development business is I'm going to go get my building license and become a builder. And so that's what I did. And so you don't let things just hold back. You just go do it. Might not have the clearest path at the moment, but you're like, okay, it's complementary to what I'm already doing. So let's keep going with that. And I know how to do it. And the key now is just figuring out the marketing and getting to scale.
Sometimes it just ends up being the thing that gets you into your next thing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't like it, it's uncomfortable, it sucks. You lose a relationship in the process.
Yeah, a couple of them too. But it also allows you to have your eyes a little bit wider open, that in the business world, everything needs to be in a contract, it needs to be in writing, and do not trust someone for their word. I've learned that multiple times. As much as I love to help people out and be altruistic.
Be like a handshake kind of deal.
Yep. Unfortunately, the world's not that way. That's my world, at least. It's not that way. So
yeah, because sometimes if you and I agree on something, and let's say we do put it in writing, like, hey, you know, I'm gonna consult you.
Yep.
Well, you might have a very different view of what that looks like.
Yeah.
I have a very different view, and then when those expectations aren't met because they were set to fail from the beginning.
Yeah.
For the lack of
expectations
definition.
are huge. Yeah. And having that writing, so then when something does happen, it is in writing, clear as day. why is this? Well, that's what we talked about, and there's no ambiguity in that. So, yeah, get a contract, especially even too, like when you're starting with partners, you want a partnership agreement because you need to realize that every partnership ends at some point. Whether you sell the business or anything else, every single partnership, it is as common as death and taxes. It's going to happen at some point. So assume that it's going to go bad. And how do you want that written up while you guys are level-headed now? Assume that someone's going to steal, cheat, or lie to you. And how do you want that contract written if those things happen? And if it was you lying, cheating, or stealing, or they're lying, cheating, stealing, how do you want it handled? And what do you think is fair?
And then...
Because you don't need it until things are bad.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and like you said, it ends somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's death, taxes, or betrayal.
Yep. Yeah, and you need to start with the end in mind. And that's every business. You got to start with the end in mind of where are you getting off the bus? That's what I always said to my clients is, where are you getting off the bus? Because we need to start with that, and we can work it backwards.
So you transitioned from the car world.
Yep.
Of the dealership.
Yep.
Industry, car dealerships. Then you went into the finance space.
Yep.
And legacy wealth building.
Yep. Generational wealth.
Yep. And then a different kind of wealth.
Yeah.
Land.
Yeah.
And development.
Yep.
What's that look like? How does a person, I've always wondered, because I have a friend in Florida that's a land developer, second or third generation.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but very successful in it.
Yeah.
How does something like that work? I mean, you go around and you look for raw land. I mean, there has to be some sort of signs or indicators of, oh man, that's going to be, they're going to build a bunch of stuff around here or something. I mean, what do you look for in that? How does that work?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different, and it's all based on location. And you think, okay, is this community growing? Are there manufacturing coming into town? Are there different things coming into that space? Or is there, I think a good one is St. Cloud. You have like Graco and Cargill. There's a ton of warehouses going up there. That's another great opportunity where they're going to create jobs. They're going to have opportunity to build. They're going to build neighborhoods. If you had something, the thing is, some of it is luck. So there's some properties too, like we have ours up in Pequot Lakes. A lot of people are retiring. They're moving off the lake, or they're trying to downsize their home and do basically like a single Rambler style home. And so one of our partners, Jeremy, he had some land out, and it's like one road off of Gull Lake. So it's not even a quarter mile off of Gull Lake. And we had found the property. He had been looking at this for probably 13 years. He had owned this other property, and he's been trying to buy it off of someone else. And it was, hey, this person had already started developing it. They already had the roads in, but it had been neglected. So power was in. And so I was like, hey, here's a great opportunity for us. We know there's demand for that 50 plus community that are trying to downsize and get into a single level home that we can build and sell these lots off. And we already have the infrastructure cost in there, or there's an opportunity to do it. And there's still demand for homes being built new or sell off the lots. So there's those indications there where it's like, hey, it's an opportunity. We know there's a growing community up there. We know that a majority of our clients are going to be 55 plus. People are retiring. They're moving up north. They want to go up to the cabin. There's an opportunity there. They don't want to pay the lakefront property, but they want to be right by the lake. So that was for us, that development. Rochester was another one. My grandfather had bought 120 acres. That was a farm that he just had on the outside of Rochester. And he knew it was developing. Mayo Clinic and IBM were growing. And so the town was kind of growing outside of that. So it's, try and buy a farm up from there, and the community is going to grow. And so then they developed it it was a farm with, hill on it. And we said, hey, we're going to start building commercial lots. And it happened to be a big, major highway started all of a sudden ran through right next to the land. And it was like, boom, your property just doubled in price just for that city planning. And then it was, okay, well, we can develop it. We'll do all the heavy equipment operation. You have dozers and scrapers and excavators. You come in and build in the road. I think the one thing with the land development is you got to have money to do it.
I was just going to ask.
So
you have your vision and what makes you believe that you want to invest in this area. But then how do you communicate that to a lender? What kind of lender?
Yeah. So some of it is you have the money yourself. The second is finding a local community bank and having a program too where you're building the community around. So there's building community developments out there, and so some of it is community grants or funding that they say, hey, we know that these are wanting to be done. There's opportunities. So a lot of stuff we did was like Mayo or Charter Communications or things like that. We would build buildings to suit those clients. So we'd already have like a lease locked in place, and we'd build the building for them, and that would allow us to get the lending for the building. So it's like, hey, here's an $8 million building. We've already secured stuff with Charter Communications. They want to build this building. We already have a lease signed up, a contract done. We worked with a real estate agent for this development. And now we can go ahead to the bank. They'll approve the loan, even if you didn't have the money, but you have the contract with them to do a triple net lease. So that basically is saying they're going to pay for the taxes, the improvements, everything at the end of the day, and you're basically a glorified landlord on the building. So that was one of the ways. The other one is you just get a group of people that have money, and you say, hey, here's our vision, here's our vision for the property, here's what we've gone to the city, yep, they've approved the plan. And you just have private investors do that, and then when you get to larger scale, it's big REITs or something like that they do, like Lennar or these bigger builders that then buy up huge swaths of land and then do the same thing. So it's just one, you just need to figure out the access to capital. How do you find that? And it's people with money. So finding investors, you either have it too within your group, and then also if you're doing it small, is just do 1 or 2 homes and then do double it every time. So it's 1, 2, 6, goes up from there, and that's how you can kind of grow into those bigger shoes while doing it.
What a convenience for you in the finance world.
Yeah,
knowing
figuring
people
out
with
how
the
to,
capital.
Yep, and understanding too, like working with banks and lenders to figure out that. And that was why I wanted to go into it, because I understood the car business of like, hey, here's how you run it, here's how you work with people. I need to know the finance side. And that was like my uncle. He had worked with RBC for a number of years and worked with these larger families. And it was like, okay, you knew the access to capital, and then you figure out how to be an operator for these businesses. And so my thought was, I need to get that knowledge. So I kind of did the opposite of what he did. He was in the finance and then went there, but he got brought in as an owner with the Walzers back in the day. So it was actually the Mazda dealership right over here that he started out. So he was working here, and then he started as a general manager for the Walzer dealership. Or maybe it was a new car sales or used car sales manager, and got into that, and then just kept building these dealerships up and flipping them and going from there. But I think hearing his story, he didn't have true ownership until towards the end, and you just realize that at any point these other bigger guys can just pull you out of there, and here's your check, and just make sure you have in a contract that you got a good parachute on you. So if you're going to go in there and be that operator, and knowing too that hey, they can hire people on, but also knowing the leverage of you have a skill and you know how to do something for these families or these private investors is like, I want some sort of equity and ownership. So yeah, I learned a lot from that, and everything has been a stepping stone of learning more, and then now I'm applying what I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, what a great opportunity to even pass on to your kids. How many kids do you have?
2.
Two kids, how old?
Yeah, 3 and 6.
3 and 6, okay.
6 months. Yeah.
Oh, 6 months.
Yeah. So I'm in the thick of it.
You got the newbornish kind of phase.
Yeah, he's been great though. He's been sleeping through the night, and so it's been nice.
Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah. My daughter not so much. It's been
at 3 years old.
Oh yeah, she still gets up at least once a night. So you're just like, oh.
It's sweet though.
It is.
I really.
Kids, I mean, you want motivation? Have a couple kids. You will be the most motivated person you've ever met. So I guess you got to provide for them, and there's nothing you wouldn't do to make sure that they're taken care of.
All the right people.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that completely discard their children and make it all about, they'd rather go and serve their business and make a bunch of money for themselves, but not provide for their family.
Yeah, I definitely have seen that too. I think we were talking about a story about that. I'd work with clients, and so a lot of my stuff was generational family wealth and working with the clients, and I had a son, a dad that came in and he's like, I'm having a tough time with my kid. I don't know how to talk to him. We would have that conversation of saying, hey, how do we talk to your kids? You have substantial wealth, but you haven't told your kid about how substantial. They know there's something there because obviously you live in pretty good.
What's an example of substantial wealth?
I think wealth is defined differently by other people. For me, wealth is time. It's because it's my most valuable thing. Is how do I get time to spend with my family and be able to have the freedom to travel and give experiences? Because my life is about experiential things. It's not about stuff. I couldn't care less about the car I drive, although I do like cars. But it's about experiences. And for me, that's wealth. Is can I give experiences? Because when I die, you have the memories and the experiences that you were left with. The rest, go sell it. Good luck. It's just a thing. But experiences are for a lifetime.
And you're a people person.
I'm a people person, yeah.
Yep, I got that when you said your takeaway from the car dealership scene was the people are the business.
Yeah, yep. And that's true of whatever business you go into is people. I mean, software can do it, but you have to have someone that builds the software. So still you have to have good people that also sell it and are the face of your company to sell to other people. So you got to have someone that is that face.
So with your clients, if
yeah.
they're coming up to you saying, gosh, I can't relate to my kid, you're kind of guiding them to...
Yeah, so because a lot of times there's a certain point where if you spoil them rotten after a certain age, you're kind of screwed.
What's the statistic? What age?
So for me, it was always like, if a kid's 14, 15, hopefully you haven't given them the super bougie car yet or anything like that. And hopefully you've gotten them into a situation where they can know what hard work is like go get a lawn mowing job, go hustle, go find a hustle of some sort, go figure out how to provide for yourself and create wealth for yourself, whether it's selling cookies as a Girl Scout or, I think when I was a kid, I did lawn mowing and I would go around to my dad's friends and I'd mow their lawn and I wanted a dirt bike. So I was mowing lawns and hustling on that. And
to earn the dirt bike.
Earn the dirt bike. And then it was like, sweet, I did it myself. But you can't just hand things to it. There has to be that work hard and then there's an outcome. Same with business. Sometimes just a little more extreme with business. But if you don't do it soon enough, comes issues with wealth that the kids don't have that gratitude for how hard it is, or they just don't have the motivation of like, hey, I'm just going to be handed this money or do whatever, and I don't care about people or things like that. And so one of the things we actually did here was this dad was having some issues just trying to like relate to his son, and how do I talk to him about it? I'm like, what does your son like doing? He's like, well, he likes fishing. I was like, okay, just come on, bring him with, and I just go with whatever I'm going to do. And just bring them with, and we're gonna do it. So there's actually canoes out here, and
Is this a lake that goes around the property?
So it goes this actually is an island. So that apartment is an island.
Really?
There's a bridge across, and it goes all the way around.
So the viewers understand, where are we at?
We're at the Carlson Towers, right off of 394 and 494, and so it's
beautiful.
Great little spot. It used to be the buildings of the Carlson companies.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there's so much wealth, you have to have buildings.
You have to have buildings full of staff, yeah. For your
and what are they managing? All their assets?
Yeah. Yep. So, basically, I'd taken this dad and we grabbed the canoes and I said, "Why don't we just go out and we're gonna talk about stuff and we're gonna be in the canoes next to each other, take some fishing poles with, and just talk about because people will open up a lot more once you are able to, do an activity together and it's just the conversation comes a little easier." So we went out there and it was this like one of those like, hey, I did something right. I was just throwing a Hail Mary of like, let's just try something and see if it works. And the dad afterwards said, I haven't had that deep of a conversation with my son in a long time, and he was starting to ask the questions and get engaged in ways that he never was before. And it was like, hey, let's just do an experiential thing that allows him to just talk a little bit more freely than sitting down at a conference room. And I would do that too with clients. I'm like, let's get out of the office. I'm not going to sit at a conference table and talk to you. Let's go walk around the island. Let's go talk. Tell me about life. What are the problems you're experiencing? I can show you a spreadsheet of what your portfolios did, but tell me about your life. What are you trying to do? And that was always more impactful of, everyone's doing the same cookie cutter stuff with a portfolio. Everyone can do the exact same thing. but it's what are you trying to do? Where are you trying to go? What are the experiences that you'd like out of life? And how do we align that with your wealth or your business to get that outcome? And then giving that advice on, and like, how do we achieve that? So.
What's cookie cutter as an example?
Yeah, so it's, a 60-40 portfolio, and they've got, I've got
60% what?
60% equities, 40% stocks and bond, or 40% bonds or fixed income assets. And so it's like, that's a cookie cutter one. And they put you into a bunch of, they'd have these companies that put you in mutual funds. You don't want mutual funds once you get past a certain wealth level because it doesn't make sense, and there's embedded fees on the assets. And so it's like you want stock, and you want, fixed income, which is bonds and stuff like that. And so it's like, hey, we're going to put you in these portfolios.
These are very conservative.
Very conservatives. But some people that have done well, they didn't get their wealth by doing a 60-40 portfolio. Usually you do that towards the end where you're like, okay, I've got $1 million, $3 million. I just want to lock this up. I'll play with the rest of the money, make sure I'm aggressive with the rest, but this I just want to be safe. And so that's that 60-40 portfolio when you get towards the end. And usually you want to just taper it off towards the end of retirement. And so it's like, 5 years before retirement, you want to de-risk. You want to take that opportunity for the volatility of the market, where you're going to a 60-40 where it's going to recover in the time. And so it's the first 5 years before retirement and the first 5 years after that are the biggest risk actually to your whole financial plan.
Really?
Yep.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess I wouldn't know because I'm not in retirement yet.
Yeah. So, so that was like, hey, if you go to RBC, Merrill, they're doing the same thing. They're all doing the same thing.
What about UBS?
UBS, they're all
That's
doing
my stuff is there.
Yeah, UBS, you're going to get the exact same thing. They're just going to say it's proprietary or different things like that. But they're all doing the same thing, man. It's, you go down to a cookie shop, they might have a different flavor or something like that, but it's still ultimately the same thing. So, and it's really too, like having that relationship with an advisor. How do you do it? And that was one thing I realized too is, man, I'm telling all my clients that they're doing this, but they built all their wealth through businesses. The real clients that had substantial means built it through businesses. And so all these people are like, oh, what should I invest in? I said, well, you should invest in yourself, first off.
That's so underrated.
Yeah. So it's like, the old...
How many business owners, at a level where they're smart enough, intelligent enough to have a wealth manager or somebody, a finance advisor, it probably whittles out a lot of the riffraff. But
yeah.
How many of them that came through to you, by the time they get to you, were... I don't know, just not even recognizing the importance of investing in themselves.
Yeah.
They'd rather just delegate.
Yeah. I think a lot of those people, when you've gotten to substantial means to be able to come talk to me, you probably already had it. But there's a few people that are like, hey, I'm just starting out. I'm thinking about starting this business. And it's like, you gotta invest in yourself and your people to do that. But yeah, I don't know. The people that I think it's, you already have like a referral basis. If someone referred you over, they're doing well. But there is probably, 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 that you're like, you don't have it figured out yet. You need to go back.
Go figure it out.
Yeah, you need to go figure it out and we'll talk later. And so you kind of ask some probing questions of like, what are you trying to get out of this? What are your goals? And
do you ever get people that have the money but don't have the brain behind it?
There's surprising amount of people, and that's that talking about that generational wealth, where they don't have the brains behind it. They haven't been taught by their family. They don't have those ingrained habits to those things of like, oh, I just want a Gucci purse or a Prada bag or whatever it is, and I want to buy liabilities and not assets. And so that was that training of like, you need to talk to your kid about, if you're going to have this money, what do you do with it? And you buy assets, not liabilities. You don't buy the expensive car. If you buy the expensive car, it's because you have a tax issue and you need to create a write-off or something like that. Those are the things. I was like, I need to go buy a truck because we have a tax issue and I need to write this off. And not for the, I've got a $50,000 tax problem, I'm just going to reduce it. It's like, well, just pay the taxes. You're going to pay a couple thousand. Don't go buy a car. That's dumb. It's, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars that I'm paying in taxes. What do I do? And it's, figuring out those things of what do you invest into your business? How can you grow that more? Because what you invest in the stock market, you can get double that or triple that in a business, if not more. And so that was like my light bulb moment of like, hey, I need to stop doing this and investing in the stock market and invest into businesses, because I can get a far better return doing that than I would investing in stocks or bonds. So that's that investing in yourself. If you got that light bulb moment that turns on where you're going, hey, I can do this and I'm willing to take on that, not, stepping over the ledge and not knowing what's on the other side and just being like, all right, I'm going to figure it out and just go for it and don't give up. That when that light bulb turns on and you have that drive,
there's a little emphasis on the don't give up.
Do not give up. Just keep going. Do it smartly. Don't take on a ton of debt doing it. Do it small, and then once you figure out what works, do it bigger.
What makes you say that, not taking on a ton of debt? Because there's a lot of people that leverage up and they think, okay, well, I'm going to go buy this building because I'm, doing really well.
And that's what you saw too. You see distressed assets through different cycles.
Okay.
Once you've figured out what works and what levers to pull for marketing or these things where, hey, I have a long-term lease and I know these people are, these buildings that are triple net or whatever, and I have these tenants and they're locked up for a long time. Okay, go for it. You've got a great opportunity. You should take on that debt. You should take on those opportunities, but you need to know first how to move the bar and what levers to pull to make the ship move.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
So that's the knowledge.
That's that knowledge. Yep. So you got to go, cut your teeth, get dirty, go fail, fall on your face a couple times and get back up. And that's that. You're going to fail a bunch, but don't be afraid to just face plant and just get back up and just don't care about what people say. Those people that are saying, the naysayers, they're not out. There's a famous the Teddy Roosevelt quote, and it's, the man in the arena. And I think about that. It's like those people are not out there because the people that are out there are saying, hey man, I've been there. Get back up. Go. Keep
What's
at it.
the quote?
So it's the man in the arena. It's, the man that's face is marred with mud and sweat and blood. Those that go out there, thriving valiantly, don't take heed to those that I can't remember the full quote.
Okay.
But it's basically it's a one I have over my desk, and it's basically the man in the arena, Teddy Roosevelt quote, and it's basically don't give up, don't take the naysayers that are trying to put you down and tell you you're going to fail, is they're not out there fighting, because the people that are out there fighting are going to say keep going. They're going to get behind you and say, hey, trust me, let me tell you about the story I failed. And the most successful people have failed a lot, and I want to say I failed a lot. So, but
that's awesome, man.
You get back up and
perseverance.
Yep, you keep at it. So, we've had that bad business partnerships that go. It's a hey, you learn something, get back up and go do it again.
Yep.
But now you're a little wiser. Don't do it that way.
Yeah. Skip.
Don't take someone on their word, and all these things.
Sure.
So, yep.
Awesome. And what are you into? What's your day-to-day look like now?
So day-to-day right now is just kind of focusing on how do I grow the building side, so that residential building side of the business. So it's a lot of marketing and figuring out that, and just connecting with other people that are in, I have private wealth. So I go around to a bunch of advisors and say, hey, I'm now a residential builder and I have land development, and there's people in that circle of saying, hey, there's these opportunities. I have a client that wants to build a home, or I want a bathroom remodel or a kitchen remodel, or whatever it is. And really trying to focus on that higher end market of people that are, $250,000 or more of household income, where they have the means to pay for the job. You can do volume, but I sell to the rich. People that have money, it's a lot easier. It's a lot less headache. And ultimately, you'll thank yourself at the end of the day.
The crazy thing to me is meeting very, very substantially wealthy people with multiple companies as a business broker now, is people have a cash problem. You go from a cash problem of I don't have enough capital to accomplish the things I need to do to scale my business, whatever it is, to a whole different cash problem.
Where
I have too much cash,
and I don't know what to do with it, and I don't know where to put it.
Yeah, I'm getting ate up inflation. Whatever it is, or taxes, whatever it is.
And that's where that 60-40 portfolio. It's like, oh, well, I'm just gonna put it in bonds. Well, some of this stuff you're going backwards, man. Like, you just put it in the S&P and an index, and you'll probably be better than most of these fund managers. I think of most of the people that work at UBS, RBC, Wells Fargo. You could put it in an S&P 500 index fund, and you'd be far better than working with any of those advisors.
That's
And that
crazy.
was that kind of pivotal of like realizing that and then back testing all that of like, man, it is truly like these advisors are actually hurting you in most of the cases until they were like, okay, these are business owners and these are the people that are successful. And I get you're trying to protect them and they have a fiduciary duty. But actually at the end of the day, if they would have been an S&P 500 and not taken that 1% advisory fee, they would have been better off. And that was like that, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So you say you're a fiduciary, but you're not actually doing what's in the financial best interest of the client. You're saying you're de-risking, but it's actually creating worse outcome.
But is a person able to go and invest in these places without an advisor?
Yeah. I mean, Fidelity, you can all do it all yourself. The only ones that are harder is private placement. So like going into business, there's businesses that you can invest into that you have to have a certain wealth level that are through like syndications and things like that you get in
Minimum
through
requirements.
So there are certain ones that there is some barriers to entry, and that's where if you know someone you can come as a pool of people and then get into those things.
But a lot of those, I mean, what barrier to entry is net worth $1 million and up, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's some
5 million is a lot of it is like you have to be 5 million net worth or more. For some of these hedge funds or different things like that. But there's a lot of products now that are lowering those barriers. So that...
Trying to bring more money to market.
Yep, exactly. So more money, more opportunities, keep on doing those things. But yeah, you start realizing that, and that was why I wanted the private wealth side of learning that, of like, how do I get the money, and then how do I take that money and build my own business and then grow it so I can create those opportunities. So that was that light bulb moment that turns on. And like you said, not everyone gets that, nor do they want that. Of realizing I'm taking on debt. I want a partner. That partner doesn't necessarily realize that, hey, there's going to be a capital call. Like, we're trying to grow this business. Your credit's on the line too as a partner. So you got to be on this loan. They don't want that. And so sometimes those are the opportunities to say, hey, you're great at developing these things, but you don't want to be that owner. So
so day to day
is really focusing on marketing and growing that business and growing the reputation and the branding in the community for that. And then the other one is, I think marketing is, I think Alex Hermosi says the first 4 hours of your day when you're starting a business should be marketing. And I believe in that 100%, because without the marketing and getting people to know what you're doing and tell people what you're doing, you don't have a business.
What's your advice to me as a business broker? Today's my 1-year anniversary.
Yeah. Just keep on networking. Keep talking to people and opportunities present themselves. I saw that.
What do you think
finance.
is more effective? Cold calls, cold emails, or networking, or
Networking. 100%. Yeah. Find the hobby that you have, something that's relatable to talk to someone, and turn, your friends and the colleagues that you have into a referral source, where you help them create value, but they in turn like, hey, I thought of you. I know I've got a buddy that's selling once. He's got a business, and you're my guy. You're my business guy. For the rally, I was always the money guy. Hey, that's our finance guy. We talk to him, and that's that. Do the networking, turn other people into that. They send you business, and creating that content. But you gotta let people know what you're doing. Otherwise
you don't have a business. They're not gonna know.
Yep. So that's business in a nutshell. Let people know that you have a business. There's an opportunity there for doing business together. They use your source, and then they refer other people because they had a good experience. So that's business in a nutshell.
Solid advice, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Take it for free advice, but
yeah.
A lot more minutia to it.
Yeah. But, just a high level.
Yeah, high level. Do marketing. Let people know what you do, so they can come and use your service or product or whatever it is.
Sure.
So,
yep. Yeah. You ever have any clients that made it really big off product?
Not product.
Because you mentioned businesses.
Yeah, I had businesses, like really big construction companies, like ones that are doing the 494 projects and stuff like that are huge. Those people are amazing too, because you realize once you get to that level, those people have gone through hell and back in different ways, and those are the most humble, kind people in some ways. And it seems to be the middle management people that haven't quite made it to that level that are the people that are the demanding, and it's got to be done this way, and entitlement and really rude. The people that haven't made it to that really high level, there's a difference there, and you see it really quick. Of having worked with people, I see it immediately. It's like, oh, yep, I understand where you're at.
All right.
Try to be a little bit more humble.
Sure.
Yep, be kind, and people will help you, dude. If you're a good person, people want to help you. It's in humans' nature to want to help other people, but trust and verify.
So, like, for example, the 494 project,
Yeah.
construction. At that level, are there 20 owners, 2 owners?
6 owners.
Okay.
Yep, and it was a family business.
Okay, so 6 family members?
Yep, 6 family members
Okay.
that did that. So.
How many years in? How many generations?
It's probably 3rd generation now.
Oh, wow.
For them, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't want to say the name, but.
No, you're fine.
You see a 494 project, you probably have seen the huge excavator equipment with their names written all over it.
Sure.
So.
I'm always curious because I like to see the difference in attitude, gratitude.
Yeah.
From all the way down at the 2 employees, or maybe it's an owner-operator kind of deal.
Yep.
All the way up to, like you just gave an example of, massive 3-generation. Gosh, I have no idea how many employees they even have. Hundreds?
Yeah. Yep.
They're probably out of the small business realm.
Oh, yeah.
500 plus?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're huge. So, yeah, it's interesting to see that, and there are all those bottlenecks. Each time you get to a certain level, there's a bottleneck that you have to overcome, and then how do you do that? Because you're going from standard, to accrual-based accounting. How do you make those transitions, and how do you pay people? And seeing that from that's a bottleneck. Now I have to pay someone less, but I'm going to pay them less, and then work them up to this. But I'm going to change over my accounting to an accrual base, and how do I make that transition over? And not lose an employee because now they feel like, oh man, I have to pay them less. So you don't start them out at the high salary. You kind of walk them in as that business is scaling up, and you change those things over. But that's the thing, you don't know it. No one teaches you that. And so the only way you know it is you either have a mentor or someone else that helps you walk through that. And that self-development. How do I find people that have already gone through the same thing to help walk me through?
Investing in yourself?
Yep.
Which is mentorship.
Yep, exactly.
How big of a role has mentorship played in what you do?
Huge.
Or what you've done?
Yeah, it's been huge.
Okay. How many mentors do you think you've had over the course of the last, I don't know, you're 34?
Yeah.
So in the last 10 years?
Yeah, I probably had 4 really good ones. So I had Rob Lanier. He was at EA Sween Company. They do like sandwiches for large gas stations. He was a wonderful mentor when I was in college. My uncle, grandfather, and so had a number of them over the years that have been wonderful, that I can call and say, hey, this is going on. And you also need someone that is relative to what you're going through. Like, I'll call my uncle and be like, man, I'm overwhelmed with the business. Stuff went south. Feel like I'm failing, not doing well. And he's like, just, hey, we all have those days we're overwhelmed. It sucks, and you can just talk through it. And just say, here's what you need to do next, is just keep your head down, keep going, do this thing next, just focus on the next one thing. You realize you have 100 things, but just focus on the one. Do that, then do the next thing, then do the next thing, and then you get through it.
As simple as that sounds.
It is hard.
When you're in
hard
the
to
heat
do,
of the moment.
simple to understand, but hard to do. But when you are having that where you just got kicked in the nuts and just feeling like, man, I'm not doing anything right today, everything failed, and sales deal just blew up, and you're just like, just do the next thing, man.
Hard to rein it back in, and it's even harder to focus the energy again.
Yeah, yep. Getting that focus back is always hard. And those moments of just like having that mentor to call and just like, hey, this just happened.
And I've learned that you kind of got to have communication when it comes to mentorship, mentee stuff, because
setting those expectations.
Setting the expectations. You're coming to them because you value their experience, their expertise, and their success. And so, in a way, you're submitting your free will, so to speak, to a point. Obviously, I mean, that's got to be kind of how far that goes, but to what they're going to suggest. And it's like, hey, you got to cut that off, or you got to take this on. And are you going to actually do it? And that's the thing, is there's so many people, oh, mentor me, mentor me, mentor me. Not necessarily to me, but just in general. It just kind of seems to be a buzzword now, especially with social media. Sign up and get this mentorship, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, dude, here's what you don't understand, though. Where's your personal development? as a leader.
Yep.
You know, how are you leading your family? Those are the real signifiers of success.
Yeah.
How you're actually leading.
Yep. Because I think we talked about that too earlier off camera. It was those people that you're like, what's that success? And, you know, there's a lot of people that are successful in business, but they're horrible at home. They're absolutely non-existent. You think that a billionaire is a wonderful father? Probably not, because they have focused so hard on business and putting those people in place that they would do it at any cost. You know, look at Elon Musk. There's been some pretty, I don't know the guy or anything like that.
Sure.
But when you get to that level, you're probably not the father that you envisioned you wanted to be to your children.
I'd say
and there is a cost of that success. And you have to be understanding of that cost of success. You know, that's a real thing. It takes time and effort, and that time and effort is taken away from your family. So pick, you know, there is a teeter-totter where it kind of goes back and forth, but you need to be understanding in a business, there is a cost. And anyone tells you different is just lying to you.
Or hasn't experienced it.
Yeah. There's no way that you can manage all those things and also show up to your house and be a wonderful father. You know, I think of sometimes I'll have rough days and I'll just sit in the truck before I go walk in, and you just got to collect your thoughts. And you're like, okay, I just had all this stuff happen before I go walk into my daughter that, you know, is, Dad, good to see you. And you're like, all right, pull your shit together, because otherwise you're going to bring it in that house with you.
Yeah.
And you got to leave it in the truck, and just, you know, realize that, hey, I can't take on those other things. I know if I did this and I didn't show up for my family, that I would be successful if I did this extra thing and I did this other thing. But, you know, I will never be a billionaire for that reason, is I would rather value family and those experiential things than getting that extra dollar. There's a certain cost that I'm not willing to go past.
I really like your definition of wealth.
Yeah.
You said wealth is time.
Mm-hmm. It's the most valuable thing we have. It's the only thing that we have, really.
And you can't buy it.
You can't buy it. You can trade it. You can pay other people for it. But once you realize what your time is worth and how fast you can move in business, you know, you're paying for people's time to do stuff for you. And that's finding the good people and that wealth of time of being able to do the things with the ones you love, and to have that vision of what you thought it wanted to be, is that time it gives you to do that. And self-development, and to have the cognitive ability to understand the trade-offs.
Sure.
So,
You have to even want to do it.
Yeah.
To want to do self-development.
Yep. Because business is, I mean...
It requires it.
Yeah. Yep.
It requires it.
Yeah. And you're going to be, you know, it's an ongoing process. You have to be developed into the person to create that opportunity. And without that, you're going to fail. So,
Well,
at least in
awesome.
my experience.
No, sure. You got a lot of experience, man.
Yeah. So,
Some good experience.
yeah. That's my 2 cents. And yeah, now we're just trying to do the residential building and the land development, and get into larger where we start, you know, developing that commercial space like my grandfather did. And just we're starting out with residential neighborhoods up in, so our other business is RJ Developments. And so I have 3 other business partners in that. And so we'll do that.
What's it called?
RJ Developments.
RJ Developments. Okay.
Yep. So I have Hasselquist Contracting, and then RJ Developments are the 2 businesses. So you got to realize with partnerships like that one, everyone it's either skill, time, or money. So a good partnership has one of those 3 equations. So mine was skill, and like knowing the financial backgrounds and having done it before. And so then we have another partner that's a real estate broker. The other's a local business owner. And then the other was my cousin that also had all the apartments. So it's like each of us bring a special aspect to the business that we're able to do and grow those things. And now it's also just being the leader to get everyone together and say, hey, let's push, while balancing a family.
All of you have families?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Yeah.
All young families?
John is the only one. He's kind of retired. He's getting towards the end of his career. He's a real estate broker. So it's actually Jeremy's stepdad. That he's the other partner there. But yeah, all of us.
All the rest of you.
All the rest of us. We
Young
have
whippersnappers.
Yep. Yep. So there's no
How
time
long
like
have
the
you
present.
been doing that?
The land development has been almost 2 years now that I'm doing it on my own with the business, or doing it with business partners there.
Cool.
So that's like actually doing it myself instead of doing it for a family business of, hey, I'm going to go do that.
Did you guys start that up from scratch?
Yeah. Well,
Ground up?
they had started a property in I got brought in because they were like, hey, we want your expertise in this. We want to give you equity. So I bought into that. And then they had bought a property, and it was like immediately we found someone else that was wanted to buy it. So we did it, immediately flipped it for 50%, like within a month. And it was like, perfect. Yeah. Warren Buffett kind of like, you should take that deal right off the bat, because that time return on money is insane. If you can turn around for double the profit, go for it. And then we found that other one where it was already had the roads, and we didn't have to do all the huge development stuff, and we could just log off some of the stuff and bring in some, power and re-widen the roads and put some asphalt roads in. That made it a lot easier. So, and it also already had, we just had to do the there's covenances that we were able to create. So we kind of, hey, here's what we can build for the houses, and we can control that versus someone else.
So you get to draft those up.
Yeah. Yep. So that was kind of the fun.
Sounds like a fun business.
It actually is. When you're like, oh, when we look at all the houses that'll be done in 5-10 years, it'll be like, yeah, we built this. This used to be just woods, and there's a road obviously going back in there, but it'd be, you'd bring your kids there someday and be like, yeah, we built this, and it's going to last longer than I will. So I think that's the cool part of the business.
That is really cool.
Building something that lasts beyond yourself, and handing that off to the next generation, because at some point you're going to sell. So how do you do it? And growing a business with a sale in mind, which is, how do I sell it? And that's where you come in. It's like, hey, how do I do that? Or how do I buy another business that's complementary to grow it, to then build a portfolio of businesses to sell? So gotta find your people.
Another piece of the puzzle.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, excellent, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.